Manji here, back again with another post-match reaction. And as you can see in the thumbnail, poor. That's really all I can say. So poor. It was a very, very boring game. And if I'm quite honest, I regret actually watching it. It was so bad. And I don't think I actually initially I didn't want to cover this, so I didn't post a preview for this. If you go back and have a look and then look in the description, I post a link to the 100% Manchester United podcast, which you guys should really check out. And I was when we were in the last segment when we were previewing the game, and I was saying, I would rather United lose this game. And I know that's controversial for a lot of people to hear that. I would rather United lose this game because I wanted them to just rest, basically. I wanted the team to basically just rest. Shout out to Raymond Moore. I want them to rest because, our squad depth is awful. And if you look at the team that we played, at least half of that team, maybe 6 members team, is in our first team. And so I feel that we needed to at least, if the way to do it was just to say, you know what, Wolves have the win, let's just not have another competition, then personally for me, I'd have been perfectly fine with that. What actually happened was this long drawn out draw, and the reality is, as I feared, we now have another FA Cup. We now have a replay, which means yet again another game, which I'm very, very concerned about. Just some of these comments that are coming in. Chris Mateague says, "Hi, folks, not good viewing." It was terrible viewing, actually. I wasted so much time watching that trash. I said I wasn't even going to cover it, but I just wanted to give a post-match reaction here. Don Ragnar, second half was a sackable offence for the entire coaching staff. I agree. I will talk a bit about a few things, though, because there is another argument to say, to be honest, who would have actually come into the team? The only person, to be honest, I can think of, given the fact that we have so many injuries and illnesses and things throughout the squad, was Angel Gomez. I still have no idea, and we talk about this in the 100% Manchester United podcast on Friday, was why is Angel Gomez not even involved? That, for me, was the only glaring admission. Everything else, I can kind of understand why. Kelvin Tan, were we even expecting anything different? No, I was not. No, I was not. Just for those who are watching, if you're new to the channel, please like, share, and subscribe to Red Devil Studio. Follow us on Twitter at WeUnitedX and smash the notification button to notify us when we are live and for latest Manchester United news. And Raymond Moore says, is Ollie managing or cheering for United? Where was the tactic? I've got no idea what the tactic was today, to be honest. I mean, to be honest, if I to review the game, in the first half we had typically, which is typical of United, we had a lot of the ball. We in quote controlled the game. I always hear this. We in quote we controlled the game. We controlled the game in the sense that we didn't give Wolves the ball, and Wolves, in typical fashion, predictably, they sat back, had a compact shape, and then were able to were basically waiting to basically counter. I knew that was how Wolves were going to play. That's how Wolves have always played. So that doesn't surprise me. What happened in the second half was that Wolves almost seemed to say, well, you know what? This United side aren't really going to pose us any problems. Let's just basically just have more of the ball and come at them. On top of that, Wolves brought on Jimenez, who's a threat, who caused problems. He obviously hit the post. And then Matinho, one of the defenders as well, who came on and who also caused us a fair share of problems. So Wolves look a lot more threatening. I think Wolves on the... It's difficult to say that a team particularly deserved to play. I think both teams inevitably was boring as each other. And if you look at them on shots, I think we had one shot on target the entire game, which is disgraceful. But if you actually look at the lineup here, aside from we obviously played Greenwood as a focal point and as a number 9, but everyone else really, what really were they going to contribute? When I look at the squad that we have, the fact that Martial was involved in this team because of illness, Lingard not involved in the team because of illness, though I'm not sure what Lingard would have added in the first instance. The fact that we can't even bring in a Twansibi or we could have bring in Jones, but presumably Ole Gunnar Solskjaer doesn't like Phil Jones, because this would have been one of the games to bring it in. I think Maguire, and I was concerned that Maguire might have been injured in the first half because, frankly, Maguire had been playing all the games season. And, in a retrospect, even though I think that we played badly, there is an argument to say that this whole entire squad looks tired. It looks tired because Ollie has not been able to rotate the squad, in part because the players have been, we don't have the depth, and also we've got injuries. So thankfully Wan-Bissaka, I'm so happy that Wan-Bissaka was allowed to be rested, and that we at least could bring in Young. And to be fair, I don't think Young had a particularly bad game, to be honest. Every time Young seems to come on, he seems to do okay-ish for the role that's required of him. Brandon Williams, I think, had a good shout. Other than that, Greenwood had some sparks, but everyone else was trash, to be honest. Or it just didn't really seem to be up for it. Just going back to some of your comments. Quick look. Chris Mateague says, tactic no different to any other time. If a team allows us the ball, we create nothing. Second half, Wolves own the ball, and that's because we don't have any creative players at all. Jamie Redpollen says, Angel Gomez is gone, bro. He's leaving now. I know that Angel Gomez is gonna leave Manchester United. To be honest, maybe that's one reason why he's not playing, because there's a contract statement or something. United seem to have this punitive thing, almost like PSG in a way, where if a player refuses to sign a contract, it's almost like the head of above, Ed Woodward, company, etc. I feel Ed Woodward is managing this club, and by that I mean Ed Woodward. 10 people watching, like the vid, guys. Please like the vid. By that I mean, a lot of you people have noticed that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer seems to mention all the time about things like, if there's value in the market, we don't want to be overcharged. We don't want to underspend. We don't want to be taken for a ride. And I'm like, Ollie, you're the manager. Why does the financial innings of the club have anything to do with you? So I strongly suspect that the fact that Gomez and certain players aren't involved in the team isn't necessarily because of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's team per se, and it's more because Ed Woodward has said, listen, Ollie, Gomez isn't signing a contract, and so he wants to leave. So we freeze him out so that he either caves and signs a new contract extension, or he's not playing, so people won't bid for him. That's a potential. Don Ragnar, I think we could sign the best players in Europe and we'll still play crap, relying only on individual brilliance. This coaching team has not developed any pattern of play. I think I agree and disagree with that as well, Don Ragnar. I think I absolutely agree. I think the coaching style is not good, and I think his team players can be improved. But the other thing I will just say is that as I've said from the beginning, even since I started this channel, you go back to my Red Devils July podcast, first episode, second, I said, if United, I said this, if United don't sign and bring in midfielders, we're going to finish around 5th or 6th. And where are we in the table? We're 5th or 6th because we didn't reinforce. Our only fit midfielders are Fred and Matic. And that's disgraceful. Jamie, United and Wolves playing similar sit-back encounter. Difference with us and Wolves is that Nuno actually made changes and the Wolves players pressed up high. Absolutely 100% agree with that comment. Don Magnet, why did Ollie have Greenwood come out to the right, almost Paolo Chong? Let a striker's hole in the box, unbelievable. That was again something I thought was quite strange, seeing Greenwood constantly coming out. I don't know whether that was some tactic that they sort of had where they were just interchanging between the two. I don't really know what happened there. But as you said, they seemed to get in the way of each other. Was Mata then going to be the lone? It was a bit confusing. It again stinks of do the players actually know, or are the players being coached? Because again, as we said multiple times in these streams and live shows, is that I'm not sure. I don't actually understand what the plan was in this game. Because at least in the first half, I was like, right, okay, we've got the ball, fine. We can hold on to the ball, right. Now we just need to create. So if we're going to have possession, if we're going to hold the ball, if we're going to make a couple of passes, a lot of which were not forward passes, to be frank, and that's something before I finish that point, um, you know, the lack of composure in this team is quite staggering, to be honest. The fact that this team cannot score from corners, this is no. I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it here. I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it here is that this we're playing worse than Mourinho. We are, because I know we're much worse than Mourinho. In fact, Mourinho is a better manager than Ollie. And I'm not saying that because reactionary, but I'm even just thinking back. I'm thinking of the players that we had. I'm thinking, um, we okay, we couldn't defend our set pieces, but we still did score from set pieces. We still did score from plays. You know, we might necessarily we scored from set piece at a time, and so it's back. It boggles my mind that we in this Lions squad that we will have to rely on penalties or rely on teams' mistakes or rely on individual brilliance, and that we can't rely on a good set piece delivery, i.e., a corner, a good free kick, um, decent crosses, or even just good play. Like it's staggering. It is actually staggering that we've regressed. We've regressed. That's the only thing I can say. We have actually regressed as a football club, and I'll say it. Mourinho was the better manager. You know, because we were scoring goals, a lot of different goals, at least under him. It might have not been pretty. And I think a lot of people like we're not playing the nice type of football. Well, the football that we're playing now isn't much better. If anything, it's worse because we're not scoring goals, and it's bad. Just reading your comments. Christmas Eve says this: there's no tactic done, and that's why. Jamie Williams did well against informed Traore. I think he did okay, although I think he did need some help. George Donman, I think Wolves didn't turn up. If they did, they could have won this. Lindelof Williams as well. To be honest, when I look back at this game, and then maybe this is a conspiracy theory before we go on to the player ratings, is that I think that both Wolves and United didn't want to either be in the FA Cup or they didn't want a replay, because if you look at the Wolves manager, he's basically thinking, right, okay, I'm competing for Europe. I've got difficult games, and on top of that, I'm in the Europa League. I really, 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 really don't want more games. Okay. Ollie is presumably also thinking, my squad is completely deplete. We've come into a very, very difficult come out of a very difficult festive period, and we're still in it. I've got a game against Man City on Tuesday. I've got Europa League coming back, and we've got to compete for top four. I really, really, really don't want to be in this competition. I really, really, really don't want to replay. And my suspicion maybe is that possibly maybe both of these didn't really want both of these managers really didn't want to go for it because really they had other competitions to worry about. That is a possibility. I don't know. That's the only reason for me that I can explain such a poor showing, in my opinion. Rasmus A, shout out, how you doing? You're right. We are shy. Thanks to whoever got to say, yeah, thanks to a manager out of depth and a squad full of deadwood. I will have to agree with that because as we all know, I feel that we played at least semi-okay in the first 3 months, but that's not what I have agreed with. I think that actually is, because we keep on talking about the squad being not good enough, but this is a squad that beat Manchester City. This is a squad that beat Spurs. This is a squad that drew against Liverpool. This is a squad that battered Chelsea. So clearly it has the potential to, we're the only team to take points of Liverpool this season. So clearly there's talent in this squad. The question is, why isn't that talent not being coached? Tim Robertson, Mourinho was a tactician. Ollie has one tactic to counterattack. I agree with that. I agree, and that's the difference. Georgia, we can't score, we can't create. We don't have any creativity. That's part of the problem. It's why it would have been good to assign Bruno Fernandes. It's why we are desperately missing Paul Pogba, even though there's a lot of fans saying Pogba should go, but Pogba, frankly, is our only creative player. In the games that Pogba played when he came back, you could see that when Pogba was playing, it was like, right, okay, forward pass, different pass, interesting, but without Pogba, there's no creativity. 14 people only to like. Come on, like the vid, like the vid, like. Let's get to at least 10 likes. Like the vid if you're watching, and if you're new to this channel, please subscribe to Red Devil Studio. Really, really appreciate it. Like the vid you can. Georgia, Ashley P. Awful performance. Club is a shadow of itself. I think it's worse than a shadow of itself, to be honest. I think that we really are. We're business is essentially what it is. That's what we are. We're a business club. It's about Instagram followers. I remember I was seeing before, what was it? Greenwood, I think there was a post on Twitter, which basically was like, oh yeah, Mason Greenwood is up to like 1 million or so Instagram followers. And I was like, and so what? What's the Man United Twitter saying, oh, he's got 1,000 Instagram followers? Who cares? Like, I mean, I'm not dissing Mason Green. I mean, his performance has obviously been okay, but this is what I'm saying. It's like, is that what they do at Liverpool? Where like, it's like Mane, like, oh yeah, Mane's got 2 million Instagram followers. Yeah, that's not what I see from Liverpool Football Club. Liverpool Football Club, and I hate saying this as a Manchester fan, but is ran better from top to bottom, better managed, better coaching stuff, and better hierarchical structure. And they've taken players that were seen as average and made them, world class. Andy Robertson, for example, left back, got relegated with Hull, and now he's arguably one of the best left backs in Europe, for an example. Jamie Villapando, heard Mark Goldbridge say this: we have no plan B. Our plan A is counter-attacking, and that should be our plan B, not plan A. I absolutely agree. There was a time for that in football, but it's not that time anymore. And I think that unfortunately, there are a lot of managers, a lot of players that still seem to be stuck in the past when it comes to this type of football. That's why I think Mourinho's going to struggle, because football has changed. Football has changed. Football has become a lot more about quick, fast football, and by that I mean, players aren't given a lot of time on the ball anymore. You need to basically pass quicker. You need to pass. You need to pass forward. You need to press. It's very high tempo, high press, and just waiting for a counter attack isn't going to work like it hasn't been. There's also the fact that, like, against teams that just put 11 men behind the ball, it's very easy to play against. Just put 11 men behind. Just put 11 men behind and just wait and see what happens. Don Magna, I'm constantly told about Malta's football intelligence. As players get older and lose pace, they bring a new dimension to their game, e.g. intelligent passing and can play. Matter offers nothing. I agree. I don't actually think that Matter actually even had a bad game. But again, is that coaching? What exactly was Matter's role in this game? I was watching the game. I was like, what exactly is Matter's role in this game? I'm not sure what it was. Tim, I'll read out one more comment, Tim Robinson, and then we're going to get into the match play ratings. But generally poor overall. Tim Robinson says, this is as good as it gets with Ollie. Carrick is also, to an experience, a better manager who can take us forward. The funny thing is, and before I go into play ratings, the funny thing is, I was actually watching Ryan Giggs. I know international football is different. I get that. But I was watching Wales play a couple of games in their qualifiers, stuff like that. And for me, Giggs seems to have more of a plan managing Wales than Ollie has for Manchester United right now. When I see Wales play, I can see what of course, they've got Bale, they've got all these things, but I see a plan there with the way Giggs sets up Wales. I just don't seem to see it with Ollie. Right, let's quickly get onto the player ratings now section. So, most of these guys aren't going to get above a 6, to be honest. So with this, I think the exception of Romero, I'll give Romero a 7. And I know he didn't have a lot to do, but to be honest, he made 2 very fantastic saves that basically kept us in the game. And I've always said for a while, I've said, Romero's distribution is okay. I don't think Romero and they have necessarily great distribution, but Romero is also a shot stopper, and there is a confidence about him. And I've always said, give him that competition, give De Gea that competition. Like you said, Romero made 2 fantastic saves that kept us in that game. One, I think, from the corner, which was literally point blank, and that goes in. So for me, For me, he's my man of the match. I know people obviously say Brandon Williams played well. He did, although Traore kept on going down his side and putting in crosses in. Brandon Williams didn't have a lot of help, but for me, my man of the match anyway goes to this guy, because basically he's the reason why we have a replay. Even though, in my personal opinion, I didn't want a replay. So there we go. Harry Maguire, I don't know, 5. I think both Harry Maguire and Lindelof had an okay-ish game. I was a bit concerned with Harry Maguire, given the fact that he could have easily been injured, and then you're crapping yourself, because we have City on Tuesday, and if Harry Maguire's injured, well, we'll see, because Ollie could throw a screw and say Harry Maguire's going to be out, in which case Phil Jones has to come in. Phil Jones or Victor Lindelof, and that's just a travesty. But I'm hoping that Twan will be fit. I think I'm going to be posting an injury report maybe tomorrow to update everyone on our injury crisis, because hopefully we should be getting Twan Sebi and Eric Bailly back fairly soon, which will be a boost, certainly from our centre-back pairing. And also because I think that both Twan Sebi and Eric Bailly need a run in this squad, because I think they offer something a bit more than Maguire and Lindelof do. Not that I think Maguire and Lindelof have been terrible, but certainly in the context of this game, I don't think they made too dumb. There was a time Maguire did want to get the ball out, want to play a pass, and that is the thing I like about Maguire and Lindelof, is that they are ballers. They do want to pass the ball forward. It's just the problem is that they have no creativity in front of them. You put Maguire and Lindelof in a City and Liverpool, and they will play well passing the ball forward. But sorry, with no creativity in front of them, I just don't see it happening. Sorry, just reading again some of your comments. Let's have a look. Tim Robertson. Oh, sorry, yeah. Georgia B. Sad to say Matt's the most creative number 10 despite having no legs anymore. Pogba's heart is in Spain or Italy. Jamie, yeah, this club is one from top to bottom, never-ending cycle. And Rasmus A. By the way, what do you think about Ollie's response to Van Persie's comments? I will be posting a video about that hopefully soon. Rasmus, Don Ragnar, Klopp has a pedigree of passing and play, top man management, a good eye on the transfer market, and has helped improve average players like Henderson, etc. And people say give Ollie time. I mean, Klopp even did that over, years. Look at Arteta. Look at how he even improved David Luiz, and and he's only been there for 3 weeks. Look at Brendan Rodgers. He's improved the Leicester players. So I'm not even talking about years or two. Look at those. Even those two managers have made an instant impact in, maybe Rashford has gotten better, possibly. I don't know, but we'll see. I guess. Leroy L. Johnson says, Ollie, I've not got a clue. He's like a fish out of water, and just goes to show that people above know nothing about football. That is why we are in the position that we are. Could not agree. So moving on. Sorry, a bit thirsty. Victor Lindelof. I think same as Maguire's a 5. Like I said in many post-match reactions before, I don't see these two as a world-class centre-back pairing for United going, or even a top 4 centre-back pairing, to be honest. The communication between the two just doesn't seem to be there. And, I mean, they did all right in this game. I think we did defend well, so I can't really state Lindelof and Maguire too much. But I didn't really see much of a difference between the two. Aside from maybe 1 or 2 things, but the other thing was particularly stand out because it was one of those types of games. So Lindelof gets a 5, just like Maguire, in my opinion. Ashley Young. I'll give Ashley Young a 6. Despite what everyone seems to say about Ashley Young, I'll give Ashley Young a 6 now, and because when Ashley Young has come in, he's done a job. We didn't actually get that much bother. We got a few ins, but we didn't get a lot of bother down his side. I think, if anything, Traore and Jimenez soon after went down Williams' side because maybe Williams a bit more experienced. I bet, obviously, they didn't. And even the cross where I think Jimenez hits the post, that actually came from Williams' side. So, Ash Young, a few times, intelligent, actually buying fouls, was able to actually to see balls out. So, to be honest, I know Ashley Young gets a lot of stick, a lot of hate, and a lot of, he shouldn't be at the club. But in the games that he's been called upon, he's done all right, you know. So I think for me, for Ashley Young, for good one-off games, good one-off cup games that we need, against teams, against opposition that maybe is not particularly great, I think, you know, I sorry about that. I think that he can come in, he can do a job. So you play Ash Young in the Europa League, you play Ash Young in the FA Cup, you play Ash Young in the League Cup, and rest those players. So yeah, I give Ashley Young a solid 6, to be honest. I actually think he had a great game, and he's had almost a consistent 6 performance in appearances that he's come in. So let me know what you think about the comments. Who you think your man of the match was, as difficult as this is in this game. Moving on, Brandon Williams. I think Brandon Williams gets. I'll give Brandon Williams a 6, but for different reasons for Ashley Young. I think that, again, as a young kid, as someone just coming into spray, I think he's got potential. I think that a lot of people are saying he's better than Luke Shaw. Yes or no? It's difficult because we'll have to see him against tough opposition. He hasn't really played against, I think, as tough opposition yet, as far as I'm aware. One or two wins, but not obviously, and not consistently. And from what I can see, I definitely think it's worth a shot of alternating him, and certainly Brandon Williams needs to be starting the Europa League games, cup competitions. I would almost be keen even to say Premier League games as well. But I don't think, you know, Ollie has his favourites, and I don't think he's going to drop Shaw. So I anticipate that Williams will start against City at least, and see how it goes. He's got potential. You know, I did think that Troy was doing him a few times down that left-hand side. He dealt with him relatively well, but there are a few instances. I do think, and actually this is a point actually, and let me know what you think in the comments. I thought it was a penalty. I thought that was a penalty. I 100% thought that was a penalty. And I know a lot of people say, oh, it's soft. Oh, it's sort of... The referees themselves said they didn't feel there was enough contact for it to be a penalty. And the way that I see that is that, you know, that I don't understand that statement, you know, because if you can give marginal offside by an armpit hair via VAR, and why isn't a bit of contact a penalty that makes you go down? I don't understand. I don't understand it. And how can you gauge what that contact is when you're not actually feeling the contact? You know, I don't know. It's very suspect. I saw it. I just think that if there's contact in the box that puts you off getting the ball, then it's a penalty. And for me, I think the was done by, and I think if VAR, I don't think it's VAR. I think it's the referees. And you know, people say clear and obvious, etc. Well, okay, armpit by minuscule is not clear and obvious, but you give it as offside. But a small contact. The other thing as well is the fact that I've seen penalties given. You know, this is the inconsistency with refereeing sometimes. Is that you can see a penalty. I think there was one. I think the one I remember vividly was I think, did Chelsea get the penalty? I think against Liverpool in the Super Cup. Similar touch to that, small touch. It almost looked like even a dive. Minimal contact. It goes down. It's a penalty. So I don't know. I don't know. I guess maybe they thought that because there was minimal contact, you don't overturn the existing referee's decision, and the existing referee's decision was no penalty. But I don't know. I thought it was a penalty anyway. Contact is contact, as Tim Robertson has said. But there you go. That said, I don't want to be in the top. You know, do Liverpool beg for penalties? No, they score goals at Mane and Salah. Do City beg for penalties? Well, okay, twice, Pep. So maybe they do. But you know, what point I'm trying to make is that we should be scoring goals from things that aren't penalties. Dog Magna, Ollie's tactic, boot the ball to James and Rashford, may glory be to God. Standard. Jamie, yeah, has a world class stop it in the first half. And Jamie thinks that Maguire should get a 6. Fair enough. Georgia B, you don't think it was a penalty? Fair enough. But George B says contact doesn't mean a foul. Yeah, I mean, I'll end on this point just so we move on to player ratings. I think you're right. Contact doesn't mean a foul, but the issue here is, I think the issue is with the technology that we have. You know, so it's that because we have technology now, where you can see that players had contact, and yes, it's a contact sport, and the fact that there isn't any consistency. For me, VAR came in to bring in consistency. And so if you have a scenario where in one game there is that amount of contact and a referee gives a penalty, I mean this is the problem I have. It's more the fact that in one game that will be given as a penalty. VAR will check it, and because it's not clear and obvious, VAR will then say we'll go with the on-field decision and it'll still be a penalty. In this instance, the same situation, except the referee doesn't give it, and because it's not clear and obvious, therefore it won't be a penalty, and that's the inconsistency, I think. So there we go. But it is what it is. It is what it is. Moving on, Matic gets a 4 for me. I think that we can't obviously let him go because we don't have any midfielders. Slow didn't really help out the defense at all. I didn't really see many. At the very least, I'm expecting Matic to try and play passes forward, sideways passing. It was almost like he was under Mourinho, except worse. Boy, he's worse because he's older. I don't really know what Matic really offered, really, aside from exposing our defense and not really helping our front from me either. I just really don't know what Matic brought. There's enough said, really. Enough said. I mean, I can't even think of specific points of some of these players because the game was so dead, and I really don't know what Matic offered in this game, other than sideways passing. He wasn't creative. He didn't create anything. So there you go, Matic. Andres Pereira. I think Pereira also gets a free. I think he gets a free for me, Pereira, because Pereira seems to. I just don't really know what Pereira seems to. I mean, he's obviously playing in a deeper role now, which isn't his position, and I think so there is that, I guess. I did say that there wouldn't be anybody really getting over 6 in these match ratings, and if Ashley Young and Branham's getting 6s, then Pereira isn't getting anywhere near that. So he's getting a 3 for me. Yes, he's playing slightly deeper than he usually plays, but again, where's the creativity? Where's the forward pass? Much like Matic. The only reason why they matter is because, much like Marcus Rashford and a few other players, it's that composure. There were a few instances with these players where, and I have a big rant about this, but speculative efforts. I let me know in the comments, guys. But do you remember a time when Manchester United actually scored from a long range effort? Let me know in the comments, guys. Let me know in the comments. Like the vid, by the way. But let me know in the comments, guys. Do you remember a time when Manchester United actually scored from a long range effort? I don't remember when they did. So why is it that when we can't break teams down, instead of like looking for that creative pass, instead of players, and this is part of the problem, is that our players are very static. No one is making any runs off the ball. No one is wanting to come and collect the ball. So this is the problem here: is that you have situations where you're supposed to have your creative midfielders in either a Matic or a Pereira. They're not looking to make that pass, and the players that they wanted to pass to are either not present, not in space, or not making a run. So sideways. You compare that to Liverpool, and it's like, right, even just from the defense, Van Dijk pings it forward because he sees from how many yards away that Firmino's making a run. That's intelligent. That's intelligent play. And Firmino's going to space. Boom, goal, end of. 2 plays. That's it. Manchester United, our midfielders don't seem to have that vision. Maguire tries sometimes, but again, because they're players that are not in space, not making the run, the amount of times that I saw a Williams, or even Ashley Young for that matter, or even Daniel James putting crosses into the box, no one's there. No one's anticipating. No one wants to make the effort. No one wants to come in. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So yeah, Pereira for me, Pereira gets a 3, and the 2 or 3 speculative efforts that he tried, just say, oh, you know what, just kick from out. I'd rather almost United pass and try and at least try and cover and try and create something than the amount of speculative efforts that we basically had on goal. Which was a joke. If I'm perfectly honest. Just reading some of your comments before I go in. Football Fan Fever, shout out, mate. Wan-Bissaka should have a game at CB. Possibly. I don't think it would change anything, though. George B. Andres like those 35-year-old sorts in row 35 for some strange reason. Don Magna, keep your friends close, be enemies closer. Based on his famous quote, I find truth in Riola's comments. Fair play. Rashi's free kick. Was that... Did Rashford take a free kick? I thought that was Juan Mata. Which free kick that? Yeah, oh, sorry, from free kicks. Yeah, okay, Rashford. So Rashford's free kick obviously was from a long way out. Yes, but that seems to be more the exception than the rule compared to the amount of obviously shots that we've attempted speculatively. Chris McTeague, Fred and Rashford need to stop blasting the ball from 30 yards out, which I agree with. But George, we can't remember one from open play. When everyone's shooting from outside the box, it's the fault of poor coaching. I agree. No one United is the MS, and I agree because if you're doing speculative efforts, it's often out of frustration. Let's move on. Daniel James. I think Daniel James gets. I'll give Daniel James a 5. Daniel James, I don't think has been having the greatest of games for a while. Because again, I think people have realised that if Daniel James does not have space to run into, then he doesn't become effective. That said, Daniel James put at least 2 or 3 good crosses into that box that no one attacked. And there's not a lot else you can do, someone playing on the wing. So that's something that is an ongoing problem. The other thing, I guess, and this is what Rio Ferdinand said, which I thought was interesting, is that our wingers, Martial does this when he comes in from the left. But and he's probably the only one, in my opinion, that does it. But our wingers don't actually come inside, or like anticipate the ball, anticipate the cross, etc. It's incredible, and I hate bringing up Liverpool again, but it's just because of how so far behind. But it's incredible that Salah and Mane are not number 9s. They're not centre attacking, not CAMs, attacking midfielders. They're wingers, and yet look at the amount of goals they're scoring as wingers. United's wingers need to come in and need to anticipate. Not always, of course. We need width as well, but they do need to anticipate the ball sometimes. So if Daniel James is going for a cross, who's on the other side? Is it Pereira on that side? Is it Lingard? Is it Rashford? Come inside, anticipate that cross, because that's how you're going to get goals. You're not going to get goals by just staying on the wing, because every single time a James crosses the ball in, or a Pereira crosses the ball in, and there's only maybe Greenwood in the box and maybe Matic in the box anticipating the cross, then nothing's going to happen, and you're going to have 8 Wolves players, as the case may be, they'll just clear the ball. Where are the front men coming in and anticipating those things? And that's something that again needs to be coached, but it's apparently not being coached, and that's a big problem. Steve Chong for he again, I think, a few times put in some good crosses, but I think he lost the ball a few times. He's playing someone that feels a bit rusty. I feel that Steve Chong, much like Gomez, they need loan moves. I don't think they're going to get loan moves because our squad is in such dire straits in terms of depth, and I have a feeling that if we don't get any transfers in January, we'll need these players for sake of injuries. So Chong may end up playing just merely for the fact that we won't have anyone else who can play due to injury or due to losses. So for me, Chong didn't have the greatest of games, if I'm perfectly honest, and hasn't really had the greatest game of United for a while, and I just feel it needs a loan move, if I'm honest. But much like with Daniel James, he did put in a few decent crosses in, and if we actually have the players to anticipate the things, then he could have got an assist today, but that wasn't the case. Don Magna, Ollie versus RVP, who would win the boxing match for charity to raise transfer funds? They should go for that. I think Ollie just. I think Robin van Persie might still be a bit out of it. And George B says again, that's normal to coaching. Nobody seems to react to crosses. Nobody attacks the far post. Yeah, exactly. I would like to see I'd like to see actually a coaching video from United at some point in the future, just to come out, just something leaked, just so we can watch what the coaching is, because I like to see how they are coached on a day-to-day basis. Matter, Matter, as he says, that most intelligent player, and he did have, and obviously the free kick that was pretty good. I think he sent the keeper the wrong way. If it just coming a bit for a bit inside, that would have been in. I think he does stay on free kicks. A much better free kick taker than Pereira. I think if you're talking about free kick takers, you probably have Fred, Mata, and Rashford are the three. Everyone else can basically just leave. Was what I would say. But Mata, I'll give Don Magna. Mata, I'll give a 4. Like I said, he wasn't. I don't think it was the worst player on the pitch, although any one of these players could get for anywhere from about a 3 to a 6. To be honest, it was just that type of game, that boring to watch. But he tried, and he came to the squad. It's just that obviously Mata can only really play for 60 minutes, and it was tasked to play for more. So there you go. And lastly, Mason Greenwood. Mason Greenwood. Mason Greenwood 5.5. I give Mason Greenwood 5.5. He did get some opportunities, and like I've said several times, Mason Greenwood has considerably more composure than some of the players around him, i.e. Pereira and Rashford. But other than that, he didn't really do. He was playing as number 9, and it is very, very difficult to play as at number 9 sometimes, especially if you're back against goal. And Greenwood, certainly in previous games, has been more so been playing off the right than in front as a number 9. But obviously, Martial wasn't there. If Martial was playing and wasn't ill, and Greenwood was on the right, then maybe you might have seen something different. I think Greenwood and Daniel James interchanging on the right is probably the way to go from the future, to be honest, to just give competition on that side, and see what happens with that. But like I said, he's had better games, but again, Greenwood's the type of player where if he's got the right coach, if there's the right coaching staff around him, he can blossom into someone good, and that's the shame. That's a shame. 2-footed, can finish, and has composure above his years, but it's just not getting the right coaching right now. Don Magnamata's voice is like Spanish Joe Piscali. Mason had some good technicals on the ball with absolutely no one moving around him in space. I agree, and it's that space thing again, as we said. And the thing that the positive thing that Lingard can, sorry, not Lingard, Mason Green, definitely not Lingard, can give you is the fact that he that even though there's no space, he can still create something, and that's the difference. I remember when we played Everton, I think Everton and even Newcastle, those games but more so Everton, when there were like 10 Everton players, I threw needle, and that goal was just excellent. He had no right to score that goal, but he found the space and he took it. And that's the difference between I see Greenwood and quite a lot of other players. Martial at times can do it, but Greenwood can find that space. He's done it before and he can do it again. And so fair enough. But in this instance, I give him a 5.5. Now on to Ollie. Where next for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is the question. Where is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer going? I don't know, if I'm perfectly honest. I don't think he's going to be sacked. I think at the very least he will be given till the end of the season. I think this might be like a Moyes thing, where like he's given till the end of the season and then he hands over the reins to someone else. Ole looks more like a man under pressure. He's aged probably at least 10, 15 years since he came into the squad, if I'm perfectly honest. I think he knows deep down that this squad is not performing to its potential. And I think half of that comes obviously from the coaching staff, the lack of technical notes in the coaching staff. But I also think some of it comes from above. And the fact that, United hierarchy as a structure cannot get deals done. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is not responsible for getting deals done. Ed Woodward is, and they can't get deals done through the window. They take too long to do them. So, for me, when you look at the situation with our midfielders with injuries, Manchester United should have had at least three or four deals working together side by side and thinking, right, okay, we're in for Erling Haaland, but what is our backup? Are we doing that as well? Oh, we're in for this midfielder. Okay, what is our backup, etc. Having 3 or 4 dudes on the go. You're the biggest club in the world in terms of financial revenue, and yet you can only do one deal at a time, and that lasts for a couple of months. The transfer window is only 1 month in January, and it's gone. And if United cannot get a single deal done this transfer, it'll be a disgrace. And I hope, and that won't just solely be on Ollie. That will be on the staff and everyone, because Woodward and like have gotten players that other managers didn't want into the squad. So as far as Ollie concerned, if Ed Woodward actually cares about Manchester United, if it's true, and my video will be posting up about Sean Longstaff to Manchester United, that'll be posting at 9 o'clock. So check that out. But if it's true that Ollie just wants Longstaff and nothing else, then it's up to Ed Woodward to say, listen, I can't get you Longstaff. I've got this other player. You need this player because the squad is zipped. There you go. End of discussion. And social use it, and that's that. And we take things from there. So yeah, like I said, overall, very very poor game. A very very poor game. It just was so so bad. And I guess it's what to expect. It's what we expect. And like I said, I'm just more annoyed at the fact that we now have another replay. So we now have an additional game at Old Trafford to play, when we could have either killed off this game, or to be honest, just throw in the towel so we could focus on the league, focus on the Europa League, and trying to get back into, because that for me is the aim of the season. I don't know whether Ollie is saying, oh yes, we're building for next season, which he said last season. We're building a squad for the season, and then we're still building and building and building. For me, Ollie Gunnar, the aim of the season is to get back into Europe. That's the aim of the season. We need to get back into the Champions League. We're already in Europe in terms of Europa League, but we need to get back in the Champions League. And whether that's by winning the Europa League or by getting a top 4 place, I don't know. We've had many opportunities so far to close the gap, and we haven't taken advantage of it. Just reading some of your comments. Van Gaal, would have been the perfect coach of Greenwood. I absolutely agree with that. I agree. But he's retired now, unfortunately. Georgia B, we need 4 midfielders. If we sign 1, I'll be shocked. If we sign Longstaff, I'll cry. Well, like I said, my Longstaff video will obviously be coming up in about half an hour or so stay tuned for that. But yeah, we definitely need 4 midfielders. I agree with that. But the reality is that because of how bad United do regarding business, the chance will only get 1, if that. We need an actual right winger, because Daniel James was a left winger, because Pereira is not a right winger, because Matt is not a right winger, because Lingard, we don't actually have a right winger at this squad, as you saw by my poll. We need another forward. We need at least 2 midfielders, if not 3. So for me, we need it, and I would even almost argue that we need. You could argue maybe another left back, but I think the key areas are midfield, forward, and right wing. 5 players at least. Are United going to sign 5 players in January? Absolutely not. Are United going to sign 3 players in January? Absolutely not. At most 2, and that's probably not going to happen. So yeah, Don Magna. When Ollie looks at the defenses in midfield, how does he conclude How does he conclude I don't know. I don't know about Longstaff. I really don't know, and I hope it's not true. And there's dreaming of Sancho. That's probably not going to happen either. So, and then was it Albert 10? You need to chill out a bit. Okay, everyone is entitled to their opinion on this channel. Okay, so we're not going to read out things that that abuse other people that are watching. Okay, so yeah. Thanks again for everyone watching, guys. There is really nothing else to say, but it was such a poor game. Please stay tuned. What we'll be doing, I don't think we'll be doing Red Devil Studio live this week. We'll probably be doing it the week after, following Monday. Stay tuned for. I hope everyone stay tuned. If you just a few things that are coming before we end the stream, but obviously, thanks to everyone who was part of the 100% Manchester United podcast, and we'll probably be doing that weekly. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be fun, and we'll hopefully get a lot of you guys coming in, phoning in, and showing your text and getting involved, which would be good. On top of that, we'll hopefully be doing our FIFA pairs streams again, maybe once a week. I don't really have a lot of time to play PS4 right now, but it's going to be there. And looking at the poll, a lot of people want me to cover more general Manchester United news, so I will be posting maybe 3 to 5 minute videos, just basically discussing certain news pieces around Manchester United. One, obviously, in particular, things like the Ollie versus Van Persie thing and so on. So stay tuned for that. Anyway, thanks again for everyone who's watching. Please remember to like the vid, share, and subscribe to Red Devil Studio. Follow us on Twitter at WeUnitedX. Consider even following us on Twitch as well. Socials below. Have a nice evening.